Hey everyone, Coach Micah here, and welcome back to Mars Hill Monday. Today we're going to be analyzing what is arguably one of the most influential songs of all time, one of the greatest songs of all time, coming from an unlikely artist, inspired by a tragedy in the music scene that changed music forever, and arguably, in his song, for the worst. But before we get into that, I just want to thank you so much for your support over the last few months since I've launched this channel and of course started creating videos for you. I can't wait to continue developing different ideas and creating different video series, especially as we get closer to the national tournament. If you ever need coaching or you have ideas for things that you'd like to see covered, then feel free to reach out to me at coachmicahdiaz@gmail.com, or you can also leave comments in the videos below giving feedback and maybe expressing your own ideas. I love to take inspiration from you guys and of course listen to your feedback. I want to develop content regarding that, so feel free to do so. Without further ado, let's get into today's video. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. But what is the most influential, arguably one of the most influential songs of all time? Well, it comes in the form of Don McLean's American Pie. In early February of 1959, a snowstorm broke out near Clearwater, Iowa, and three up-and-coming rock and roll musicians, just in their 20s, Buddy Holly, J.P. Richardson, and Richie Valens, passed away in a plane crash affected by that storm. Now, these musicians held a ton of influence in the music scene, inspiring teenagers and other youths around the world to create music and to entertain people. They were jolly, they were happy, they were the new style, and so many people looked up to these individuals. So to hear of their death sent shockwaves throughout the country and almost a sense of depression. At 13 years old, Don McLean was a paperboy, and he read the headline seeing one of his idols, Buddy Holly, had died, and he too felt just a sense of depression. Several years later, he would end up writing a song about that experience and of course the fallout from the deaths of these three individuals, and that song that we know today is American Pie. Now, before we get started, I want you to pause this video right here and go and watch this video. It will be in the link of the description. It's the best lyric video released by Don McLean's channel. You'll notice that it's 8 minutes and 32 seconds long, and this song actually held the record for the longest song to air on the radio, the longest song to be a hit song, until Taylor Swift broke it with her all too well 10-minute version. But anyways, I want you to go and watch this video because it's really important that you listen to the lyrics, and then we can come back and analyze that when you're done, okay? So here, I'll give you a few seconds. Pause this video right here. I'll see you soon. No, pause the video. Go watch it. Okay. So, you watch the video. You'll notice that there is a lot of stuff in there that you probably didn't quite understand. I sure didn't understand it when I originally watched the video, and I've heard the song many times, and of course, the only thing that we remember is the chorus because he sings it so many times because it's an 8-minute song. But other than that, don't understand a word that he is saying pretty much. And with a song like this, to craft a really good Mars Hill speech, you're actually going to forego a lot of the interpretation of the lyrics because they don't necessarily matter, and it'll take much longer to actually analyze the song than it will to give a Mars Hill speech. Like this, the song is 8 minutes long. Your Mars Hill speeches are only 6 minutes. So we actually need to just focus on a few key lyrics, maybe lyrics that he repeats or lyrics that fit our theme, which we'll get into in a second. But yeah, super long song, many, many, many lyrics. I have a few highlighted. We'll get into those in a second. If you're interested in using this document yourself outside of this video to be able to read it at your own pace, you can of course find my Mars Hill Monday documents in my Patreon page. The link is there. I'll leave the link in the description of this video. Of course, to the left side of the document, I have all of the topics under classic media, and each document that contains a category of Mars Hill topics has tab 13, and what tab 13 does is it gives you some things to think about as you create your own Mars Hill binder in preparation for the tournaments. I mean, I'm only releasing one video a week for this, so in your own time, I gave you some things to think about regarding your topic. The setting, the story, the style, the significance, and the scriptural connection of Mars Hill. And here is your weekly reminder that Mars Hill is not apologetics. So, how can we take a song like this and create a persuasive Mars Hill speech, basically? Well, the first thing that I do when I research, and you can go to Don McLean lyrics right here, I have a link for you. The first thing that I do is I read as much as possible on the author, on the lyrics, what they mean, and we've seen this before. What is the director? What is the author? What is the artist? What were they inspired by? What do their lyrics mean? Now, actually, interestingly enough, Don McLean has made it clear that he does not want to explain his lyrics. Another really great resource for just getting general knowledge of things to help you understand the topic is, of course, Wikipedia. And in this Wikipedia page, I have a quote and, of course, the link right here. He says, "You will find many interpretations of my lyrics, but none of them by me. Sorry to leave you all on your own like this, but long ago I realized that songwriters should make their statements and move on, maintaining a dignified silence." It's a very interesting point. Maybe it'll be relevant to a speech that you write, but the reason I bring that up is because you might talk about how, despite this page right here analyzing every single lyric and providing the possible meanings or the confirmed meanings, because Don has confirmed some of the things that he means, but there's just so many cultural references in this song, and this particular site right here goes into a lot of those. So that's really important. I totally recommend reading that. I'll give you an example here. So he talks about a long, long time ago, American Pie reached number 1 in 1972, but the incident that inspired it happened in 1959. Other aspects of the song happened further back, so he's recounting history. He says, "I still remember how that music used to make me smile, and if I knew I had my chance, that I could make those people dance, and maybe they'd be happy for a while." And then here's the explanation. Sociologists credit teenagers with the popularity of rock and roll. As part of the baby boomer generation, they found themselves in a very influential position. Their sheer number were the force behind most of our country's recent major transitions. McLean was a teenager in 1959. He was 13. And he begins by simply commenting that the music had an appealing quality to him, as well as the millions of other teens. McLean also had an intense desire to entertain him as a musician. His dream to play in a band at high school dances was the dream of many young boys who wanted to make people dance to rock and roll. So basically, he starts his song off with talking about how he was inspired by rock and roll musicians like Buddy Holly, and he wanted to be in a band too, and he wanted to entertain and make people dance and make people enjoy the time. And then he talks about how in February made me shiver with every paper I deliver. Bad news on the doorstep, I couldn't take one more step. So that's him finding out that these influential figures in his life just died. They're gone forever. I can't remember if I cried, but when I read about his widowed bride, but something touched me deep inside the day that music died. And that is the key lyric of Don McLean's song. The day that music died. Imagine that, the death of music, right? Music has existed forever, basically, and it's so incredibly influential, even today. I mean, we have awards for music, We have categories for music. We have so many different ways to stream and listen to music. Of course, I know you have a favorite song. You have your favorite music, whether it be classical or whether it be any other genre, rock and roll. Imagine just the feeling of music dying. That's really, really heavy. And this is where I kind of want to skip ahead into the cultural and secular significance. Oh, I do want to say that if you are a music fan, you'll notice that the theme of the song is a lot similar to Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire, which actually came out almost 20 years after this song was written in 1989. And interestingly enough, another famous musician died in a plane crash. Maybe musicians should stop, either building their own planes or stop taking little prop planes. Maybe they should just fly commercial like everybody else. Anyways, so there's a lot of similarities with these other sources here. But the cultural significance here really just deals with the growth of rock and roll and, of course, the impact that music as a whole had on people. I really like this quote from Khan Academy, and of course all of my sources are linked here so you can read them in full. I just like to pick the particular parts that are most relevant. Khan Academy's talk about the 1950s and music of that time says, quote, "The baby boomers developed a greater generational consciousness than previous generations. They sought to define and redefine their identities in numerous ways. The music of the day, especially rock and roll, reflected their desire to rebel against adult authority." So basically, kids, and this is the baby boomer generation after the conclusion of World War II, they sought a new way to stick it to the man, right? They wanted to create an ability to rebel against authority. They wanted to take things into their own hands, and they looked up to these young and up-and-coming musicians to do so and dreamed of making rock and roll music to make people dance and things like that. And so what Don McLean is really singing about throughout the song is just the idea that music is so powerful, it had a power on him, and when these three seemingly perfect, influential guys died, all of the joy of the world and of music just went with them. And that's the reason he talks about the day that music died. It's the consequences of living in a world where there is death, especially when people who we hold as idols die. I'm sure you have people that you follow or people that you really, really like. For example, I know a lot of you, were stunned and shocked and horrified about Charlie Kirk's death, right? And it's because when young individuals who have so much life to live and who hold such power over the world pass away, it almost seems like there's no hope. They're gone, therefore everything I know is gone. And I could never fill those shoes, so there's just no hope. And this is ultimately what the lyrics of the song are saying, right? He talks about how the day the music died, but I knew I was out of luck the day the music died. We sang dirges in the dark the day the music died. And the dirges are, it's like a mourning chant. Mourning as in crying, as in not like the morning time, but as in just crying, as in mourning. So the marching band refused to yield. Do you recall what was revealed the day the music died? Right? I saw Satan laughing with delight the day the music died. I really like this line here. And in the streets the children screamed, the lovers cried, the poets dreamed, but not a word was spoken. The church bells all were broken. And the three men I admire most, the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, they caught the last train for the coast the day the music died. So, as he's discussing so many different cultural events, which honestly spell nostalgia for a lot of people who were either baby boomers or who remember and have family members who remember all the different little things that he puts in the song and the different metaphors that he gives. For example, he talks about a jester several times in the song, and that is believed to be another musician by the name of Bob Dylan. He talks about James Dean, who's a famous actor. He names a couple other bands in clever ways, Rolling Stone, right? But the key line, I think, of this song is talking about how the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost just left the day the music died. So basically, once these three individuals who held all this influence died, all the joy, all the goodness of the world left with them. Satan is laughing. Church bells are broken. The God has just deserted us, right? He's gone the day the music died. And so that's really, really heavy. And it really plays into the idea that music just has so much influence that even when it's all gone, chaos ensues. Right? Music is a thing that brings us together, and going to a concert to see your favorite band or your artist, favorite artist, watching the news as people pass away just spells the tragedy. Just it's hard to deal with, right? And I'm sure you've experienced that. So if we were to end the speech there, it's very somber. Nothing matters. Everyone is mortal. Like, people will die, and nothing will last forever. And although music will continue to progress and last forever in that sense, the influence of the artists, we just wish that they could be around forever. Like, we want their guidance forever, but we can't have that. And Don McLean's song is just talking about the fallout, the consequences of that. And this is where we can start making that transition into how it affects culture. So we currently live in a land of chaos. There's so many things politically going on. There are people who are passing away. Of course, the relevant one for a lot of people was the death of Charlie Kirk, just because of how influential he was. And despite there being music out there, it seems we're in a very dark time. And this is where we can make that scriptural connection, because despite the darkness, we actually live in a world that has not been abandoned, right? When making a scriptural connection, I like the idea of just saying that music is actually something that has existed forever and is pointed out many times in the Bible. I have a whole article right here, many different songs. But also, just saying, we know that relying solely on influential people will not ever satisfy us, because they may be here for a second, but they're gone next. But God will never leave us, right? Psalm 94, 14 through 17. And before I read this, I just want to say, make sure that you bring unique scripture into your rounds, because again, it's not an APOL card. You're just trying to tie it back to the Bible. And when we're dealing with a song like this, and maybe songs in general, Psalms is really important because it's a book of songs, right? So it would be, a good and clever thing to use a psalm in an analysis about a song. And I really like Psalm 94, 14 through 17. I think it captures exactly the themes of this topic. For the Lord will not forsake his people. He will not abandon his heritage. Contradicting Don McLean's they left on the train for the coast. For justice will return to the righteous, and all the upright in heart will follow it. Who rises up for me against the wicked? Who stands up for me against evildoers? If the Lord had not been my help, my soul would have soon lived in the land of silence. I mean, that's just a reflection of those lyrics right there, right? The day that music died. Imagine if music was no more. Everything would be a lot more silent. No more listening to the radio, no more humming, no more singing, just silence, right? And this verse is specifically talking about how if God wasn't real, if he had not been my help, the music would have died. There would be silence. There would be depression. There wouldn't be any hope. But he is my help. And he stands up against the evil. He stands up against the unrighteous. He provides justice for the righteous. And he will never leave. He will never leave us. The psalm goes on to say, when I thought my foot slips, your steadfast love, O Lord, held me up. When the cares of my heart are many, your consolations cheer my soul. Can wicked rulers be allied with you? Those who frame injustice by statute, they band together against the life of the righteous and condemn the innocent to death. But the Lord my God has become my stronghold, and my God and the rock of my refuge. He will bring back on them their iniquity. wipe them out for their wickedness, the Lord our God will wipe them out. Those verses are less relevant, but yeah, the idea that for the Lord will not forsake his people. A direct contradiction of the song, and ultimately showing, the power of God. Despite tragedy that happens in the world, we have a God who will never forsake us and who fights on our behalf. And because he is our help, music never has to die, which I think is a really good transition to make in the speech, from the day that music died to there will never be a day where music dies. I'm going to be honest, this video took multiple attempts, and that's because there's just so many things to cover in a song like this. It's also because I had some software issues. But I could make a whole video series on the lyrics here and the meanings, and I'm sure if you read up on the history and you read things like this document right here that goes into depth into each of the lyrics and the theories or the confirmed meanings of them, you can find a lot of different stories. But if you're looking for just an overarching message that is relevant for the time, then that will be the idea that influence doesn't satisfy, the world doesn't satisfy, people will die, everything is temporary. But God will never forsake us. And the musical allotment in the Bible for that message is major. Like, there's just so many psalms that confirm this. So we never have to worry about thinking about this will be the day that I die. We don't want to have to think about those depressive thoughts. We just want to bask in the love of God and just remember that he will never leave us. It's hard to transition out of this topic because I'd love to talk about it forever. But when you're looking for a Mars Hill speech on American Pie, first point is the song and the artist's background. Second point, the cultural and secular significance, transitioning into the biblical and scriptural connection. Make sure to throw a personal story in there. If you're the type of person that likes humor, it'd be cool to point out some of the things that Don McLean does with his lyrics. He does a few jokes here and there, little subtle messages for different cultural events. And once you get to the Bible, this is not an apologetics card. Make sure that you read the scripture, analyze it connected to the world, and end the speech on a strong note. You could do a call back to the lyric, "The Day the Music Died." Maybe even say, then this is the time where my Mars Hill speech ends. Or something like that. Yeah, Don McLean's American Pie. Give it a listen if you haven't yet. Give it a watch. Read the resources that I have here on the document, and you will be good to go for your next Mars Hill tournament in which you give this topic. You've made it to the end of today's video, so I just want to thank you for watching it. I hope it was helpful. It is really fun doing research for these topics. I love diving into the biblical themes and even just learning about the world. I didn't know what any of the lyrics meant with Don McLean's song. In fact, I was more a fan of Weird Al's version, A Saga Begins. I totally recommend watching that as well. It's hilarious. It's the Star Wars version of the American Pie song. But I never knew the history, and I love learning about history. And if you like learning the history of things, then when you do research for your Mars Hill topics, make sure that you make an extra point to learn that history. Make sure you actually dive into the meaning of songs and that you do your best to figure out what the artist meant by it and how it's impacted the world. I really love Googling things like, how has this song impacted the world? There are so many different studies out there for all sorts of different songs where experts who know the music scene really well just dive into it. So make sure you do your research like that. And of course, if you ever have any questions or you want help trying to better your Mars Hill speeches, if you want to give a speech for me and have me analyze it and help you make it better, maybe you think you've got the juice, you've got it down, I'd love to be able to challenge you. I'm always free for sessions, especially in the mornings. Given my work schedule, the mornings and certain days that I'm off, I'm happy to meet with you. So I'm always a resource if you need it. Again, I love your feedback. And of course, I really appreciate you watching today's video. Make sure you guys check out my other series and of course my other videos. I will link them here in today's video. I release debate theory content every single week on Thursday, for the most part. Theory Thursdays, right? So make sure you check out the video that we'll be releasing then. Check out my Patreon page and other resources. I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.